there is a civil war in America, leading to global turmoil and human suffering. Amidst this chaos, a few brave reporters risk everything to question the president at the White House, a place that has taken much from them. The film begins with a press briefing by the president, declaring they are on the brink of triumph. His reckless choices have sparked a nationwide conflict. With pride, he proclaims this triumph as unprecedented, expressing his pleasure in sharing the announcement. The protagonist, Lee, a renowned white female photojournalist, observes the president's briefing with revulsion. It's a period of civil war marked by widespread ruin and bloodshed. In the vehicle, Lee progresses alongside a reporter of South American origin, Joel. They head towards a demonstration where citizens voice their dissent against the authorities, who are denying them entry. The officers resort to aggression to suppress the crowd, striking them severely. Meanwhile, Lee is engrossed in capturing these acts of oppression. She's not isolated. Numerous other reporters are present, including a young, gifted individual who's also photographing the scene at great personal risk. Tragically, she's struck by an assailant, and Lee pulls Jesse from the turmoil. Upon seeing Lee, her astonishment is evident as she stands before the person she admires most. Promptly, Lee sensed impending danger and shielded the girl. Her premonition was correct. An explosion ensued, leaving casualties strewn across the ground. Remembering her role, she steadied her camera and began capturing striking images. Concurrently, Jesse, gasping for air, also snapped pictures of her role model, Lee. Subsequently, Lee, Joel, and Sammy engaged in conversation. Abruptly, the internet connection failed, halting Lee's video upload. She confided in Sammy about their plan to journey to Washington, D.C. for a presidential interview. Sammy was taken aback, aware of the peril they faced. Observing the media could lead to them being targeted, and the president might find their actions hard to swallow. Disregarding Sammy's concerns, Joel persuades him to join their venture, touting it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance beyond mere newspaper reporting. Frustrated with Sammy's feeble justifications, Lee heads to her quarters to post the video. En route, she meets Jesse, who confesses her admiration for Lee. Lee listens, somewhat pleased, yet chooses to depart, believing she has little to impart to the youth, unaware that the future holds numerous conversations between them. As Lee bathes, she finds no peace. Visions of the deceased haunt her. The next morning, they prepare to depart for Washington, D.C., but Lee is taken aback to find Jesse in the vehicle. She attempts to dissuade Joel from bringing Jesse along due to her youth. Joel, however, is blind to her age, seeing instead a fervor akin to Lee's, and he decides to afford her the opportunity. Lee accepts that Joel won't heed her advice, so she joins him in the vehicle. As they set off, Sammy and Joel engage in a mock interview, with Joel playing the president and Sammy posing as Joel. They soon witness the dire state of abandoned vehicles, a grim testament to their owners' fates. En route, they pause to refuel, anticipating potential crises. The gas station attendants are on high alert. The group quickly states their need for fuel. However, the attendants are initially reluctant to assist until Lee proposes a generous payment. Suddenly, Jesse exits the car, drawn by something she glimpsed, and strides forward for a closer look. A companion joins her, and they are both shocked to discover two men suspended, their features marred from severe beatings. The culprit, showing no remorse, stands nearby. Lee, upon reaching the scene, instructs the assailant to pose with the victims for a photograph. Meanwhile, Jesse is petrified, fearing for her life, but Lee safely escorts her away from the danger. Back in the car, as Jesse comes to her senses, she laments her inability to rescue the men. Joel somberly informs her that they were beyond saving, their fate sealed. Lee imparts a crucial lesson to refrain from meddling in others' affairs with excessive inquiries. Lee's stern demeanor reflects her disapproval of bringing the young girl along. Tears fall from the girl's eyes, acknowledging the truth in Lee's words. Outside the window, scenes of carnage unfold, with lifeless bodies strewn across streets and structures. Lee then instructs the girl to exit the vehicle to photograph a downed helicopter, softening her earlier sternness. Lee also cautions that this expedition could lead to Jesse's demise or injury. The realization dawns on Jesse that this perilous journey could cost her life, leaving her stunned by the gravity of the situation. And Lee confesses her desire to step away from the fray, yet she remains unable to flee. Joel then arrives, proposing they observe the fiery skirmish from a closer vantage point. Initially hesitant, Lee is swayed by Joel's fervor and consents. Joel then turns to Jesse, outlining his plans for the dawn, opting to leave her behind. Jesse vehemently protests, determined not to be left out. It becomes clear that Jesse won't be easily dissuaded. Come morning, they stand alongside the Western Alliance, clashing with government forces. A young soldier, concealed behind a column with an injured leg, resists the enemy's advance. Lee, Joel, and Jesse find sanctuary under the Western Alliance's wing. The battle rages on, but they're unable to rescue a fellow fighter who falls as he attempts to reach them. Amidst the chaos, a WABA officer strives to shield him, yet blood pours forth unstoppably. Stealthily, they enter the building, cautiously advancing. Lee and Jesse cling to their cameras, not missing a beat. They encounter an injured officer, and without hesitation, they incapacitate him with gunfire. Ignoring his pleas, they seize the remaining officers, dragging them out and executing them without mercy. continuing to fire even after their demise. Capturing this grim scene, they press on. Their journey leads them to West Virginia, 289 miles from their goal. Inside a tent, life goes on, sanctioned by an officer who directs them to dine at the canteen. Lee worries about Jessie fetching her food, but Jessie has already secured a meal for both. Jessie shares her admiration for Lee, known since college for her stunning photography and status as the youngest photojournalist. While killing time, Jessie gazes at a photograph, swept by nostalgia. Lee encourages her to embrace the moment. Discovering an extraordinary photo she took, Lee can't help but express her admiration. Savoring their journey, they set off towards their next destination. Soon, they find themselves in a place untouched by the Civil War, a serene haven resembling their old world. Joel feels as if he's stepped through a portal into a different realm. They pull over near a store, where Joel asks a book-reading girl about the tranquility of the area. The locals here shun political strife and embrace tranquility. In this peaceful spot, Jessie selects a dress for Lee, who tries it on at Jessie's urging, and captures a delightful photo of Lee's cheerful expression. Their pleasant interlude concludes, and they resume their trek. Now 176 miles from their objective, they arrive in a deserted wonderland. Their respite is shattered by gunfire. They narrowly escape harm and observe officers on the ground returning fire towards a house. Inside, an adversary retaliates with shots of their own. Amidst the chaos, Jessie documents the scene, while Lee lies down on the ground, succumbing to sleep. While on the road, Lee spotted a car tailing them with wild abandon. Behind the wheel was Tony, their comrade from the press corps. He playfully engages with Jessie and leaps into their vehicle, exuding a spirit of adventure. Jessie, caught up in the excitement, joins him. Suddenly, Tony speeds off, and Jessie vanishes from their view. Lee's concern for Jessie deepens, given their growing bond. Lee then notices the car abandoned, doors ajar. As if there was no time to shut them, they follow discreetly and discover that government forces have taken them captive. These officers have also executed many and laid them to rest in unmarked graves. Unable to bear the thought of Jessie meeting such a fate, Lee resolves to press forward. Sammy cautions against it, warning of the officers' ruthlessness. Yet Lee, with Tony and Joel in tow, chooses to disregard the danger. In the face of imminent danger, they declare their American identity, but the officers, in their arrogance, eliminate the captive alongside Jessie. Tony's distress escalates as he becomes the focus of the officer's scrutiny. Overwhelmed by questions, Tony's silence breaks to confess he's not American, prompting an officer to shoot him without hesitation. This provokes an outcry from the group. Jessie and Joel are particularly stricken, their screams echoing the chaos. As an officer prepares to fire at Joel, Sammy intervenes dramatically, using the vehicle to subdue the assailant. Jessie, amidst the fallen, is gripped by terror. They swiftly extract her and flee in the car, dodging the officers' bullets as they make their escape. The ordeal leaves Joel enraged and Jessie traumatized, her shock manifesting in physical sickness. Amidst the turmoil, Sammy admits his injury prevents him from driving further. They swiftly switch seats, with Joel taking the wheel. Sammy is on the verge of passing, soon to depart, leaving his companions in mourning. They finally arrive at the Western Alliance camp, a sanctuary, yet the victory feels hollow with the loss of 3 friends. Joel's anger surfaces when the Alliance officers offer their sympathy. Sammy's death seems a futile sacrifice. The camp is bustling with military vehicles and aircraft, gearing up for an assault on the White House to seize the president. Lee approaches Jessie, who's fallen silent, overwhelmed by her brush with mortality. Lee is equally troubled, facing the potential loss of a man brimming with humor and insight. Amidst this, a helicopter lifts off, and Lee's gaze falls upon the vehicles. She begins to cleanse a car, its interior stained with blood. During the night, the Western Alliance troops launched an incursion into Washington, D.C. Lee's group was among them, shielded by the force. While Lee was overwhelmed, Jessie remained vigilant, documenting the scene. The air was filled with gunfire and blasts, carving a path through the chaos. Lives were lost, deemed inconsequential, as they shielded themselves from flames and deadly arms. Suddenly, a Western Alliance chopper swooped in, decimating the adversaries. They had to relocate repeatedly to safeguard themselves and capture the unfolding events. Amidst this, Lee was stricken with horror, and Jessie braved the aftermath of the explosions to photograph. It was then revealed by a soldier that their mission had shifted. They no longer sought to detain the president, but to terminate him immediately. 2 vehicles speed out of the White House, attempting to escape, but the forces swiftly intercept them. The confrontation escalates to gunfire, compelling the occupants to exit. Once they do, they are executed without hesitation. Meanwhile, Lee, realizing the president remains inside, leads Jessie and Joel to infiltrate the White House. They are pursued by officers, and the presidential guards block their advance. Amidst the firefight, Lee snaps back to focus, capturing the turmoil with her camera. As they press on, the president's secretary attempts to defuse the situation. However, their demand to see the president is met with refusal, and in the heated exchange, the secretary is shot, collapsing lifelessly. Pressing forward against their adversaries, Lee and Jessie are driven by their fervent dedication, risking their lives for their craft. As Jessie steps out to capture a photo, Lee instinctively protects her, tackling her to safety. In this act, Lee becomes the subject of Jessie's lens, her final moments immortalized. Paralyzed by the scene, Jessie is unable to move. They discover the president cowering behind a desk. Seizing him, they're poised to execute him when Joel intervenes, deeming the president unworthy of their questions. He steps aside, and the officers proceed to eliminate the president as Jessie captures the harrowing event. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to catch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.